What's up guys, how you guys doing today? I hope y'all are doing really great. Today I will be comparing two of horror's greatest villains. By the title and thumbnail of this video, you obviously already know who I will be focusing on, but you guys don't know the why just yet. Let me tell you. When I was looking for a good movie to watch on Netflix, I noticed that Netflix updated their new movies and TV shows like how they usually do every month. I checked out the list for the most recently added ones they have put out. The first time when I was like 11 or so, my brother and I used to go to this movie retail store called Movie Exchange. The place was packed with great movies to buy. For example, some movies we bought when we went there were The Scorpion King, Scary Movie 3, Kangaroo Jack, and Freddy vs. Jason. All of these movies were in cassette tapes. Before DVD was ever a thing, we had cassette tapes. I found Freddy Krueger similar in ways to It, who is Pennywise the Clown. Once I finished watching the movie, it gave me the idea of making this video, and here we are. I want to start with their backstory before they became legendary in the world of horror.
But you won't tell, will you?
I won't tell.
Let's start with Freddy Krueger. A man who was born on August 2, 1939, was well known for his pioneering work in the genre of horror films, particularly in slasher films. Due to his success and horror impact of his works in the horror film genre, he was called the Master of Horror. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking to you about Wes Craven. He was known for creating the original Hills Have Eyes movies back in 1977, 1996 Scream, the one with Ghostface terrorizing teens, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. After finishing The Hills Have Eyes Part 2 back in 1984, he wanted to find something that was even more terrifying. He came up with the idea for Nightmare on Elm Street by reading an LA Times article about a family that had survived the killing fields in Cambodia. The article and the story tells that the family made it to the United States, but a young boy in the family still found himself haunted by terrible nightmares while he slept. Keep in mind, millions of people living in Cambodia were killed during the brutal ruling of Pol Pot. Their bodies were buried in mass graves that became known as killing fields. On January 19, 1953, when Pol Pot returned to Cambodia, the whole region was revolting against French colonial rule.
I see dead people.
With seeing all of these terrible things at a young age, the boy had horrifying nightmares. Craven in an interview said as following: "The young boy told his parents he was afraid that if he slept, the thing chasing him would get him. So he tried to stay awake for days at a time. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought the crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night, but at the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare." Here was the youngster having a vision of a horror that everyone older was denying. This became the central line for A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now that we know where Craven got the idea for this character, let's go into the origin of how he came to be. From all the A Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I gotta say, the third installment called A Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors was the very best of the series. This one added new things into the series where the second installment of the series couldn't. It was something new. Plus, we got the origin story of how Freddy Krueger came to be. Around the middle of the movie, Dr. Neil Gordon was told by a nun sister called Mary Helena that Freddy is the son of a young nun who was accidentally locked in a room with hundreds of mental patients who raped her constantly. The nun told Neil that his nickname was given by his classmates. He was called the son of 100 maniacs. Further in the movie, we got to find out that that nun is actually Freddy Krueger's mother. Throughout the series, he took him around like in the first movie, but throughout the series, his powers grew even more and more. Okay, now that you know about Freddy, let's talk about Pennywise, the dancing clown. Stephen King is the man behind the creation of Carrie, Cujo, The Shining, and as you all know, It. In an article on comicbook.com, it says that he got the idea for It, stating that when I was in Colorado that I wanted to write a really long book that had all of the monsters in it. Explained King. I figured if people think I'm a horror writer, I never consider myself to be that myself. I'm just a writer. I thought to myself, I'll get all of the monsters together as I possibly can. I'll get the vampire, I'll get the werewolf, and I'll even get the mummy. He continued. But then I thought to myself, there had to be one binding, horrible, nasty, gross creature kind of thing that you don't want to see, and it makes you scream just to see it. So I thought to myself, what scares children more than anything else in the world? And the answer was clowns. In 1986, King published It, and that's how we got the miniseries for It. ABC came along and they wanted to make a series out of his book. When I was younger, clowns used to scare the crap out of me. There was one time my mom was shopping for food at Krueger or Fiesta, I don't really know, but I saw a DVD in an aisle where you pay for your groceries that had a clown in front of the cover. I was so scared that whole day. My mom asked me what was wrong with me, but I told her nothing was wrong. But yeah, now I'm not really afraid of them. So going back to Pennywise, Pennywise is not a human nor a monster. It takes on the shape of humans and monsters, but it isn't. It's a malevolent cosmic entity that is billions of years old, spawned in the void of the macroverse and came to planet Earth to feed. It lives in the sewers of a small town called Derry. Every 27 years, the entity comes to life to feed on children. It feeds off children's fears. The primary reason why it chooses children because it's an easier target for the demonic entity. Doesn't this remind you of someone that we all recognize and love? The entity uses bright orange lights to comprise his own life essence called deadlights. The deadlights is a dangerous form of energy used by the entity to make the children float. The entity chooses its disguises into things depending on the victim's fears. Due to its shape-shifting abilities, the true identity of the creature is unknown. Hence the name on why we call it It. Now that you become an expert on these two horror villains, let's start comparing them. Both of them have godlike control of reality. In nightmares, Freddy Krueger is able to do this as much as he wants to. Meanwhile, It can control the victim's reality in the real world. For example, Beverly's father could not see the blood in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Beverly and the rest of the Losers Club was able to. For Freddy, in the dreams, as long as their victims are scared of them, that will make them grow even stronger and stronger. So why are they doing this in the first place? Why are they attacking and going after children? The answer is because they both want to be infamous. Just like how I explained about Chucky in the last video. These horror villains tend to become unstoppable and want to be feared by many. Especially Freddy Krueger and It, since they both need fear from their victims so they can continue with their killings. The good thing is that there's always someone in their movies to stop them.
I am forever!
Well guys, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and comment below on who you think is scarier for you, Freddy Krueger or It, the dancing clown. I know it took me almost a whole month to make this video guys. I hope it was all worth it. As always guys, thank you for watching and live to the fullest.